So, welcome to the XR for Good panel. Every technology can be applied for good or for bad. And our mission at AWE is to encourage the community to think about how we can use these technologies to better society. So I'm extremely proud about our collaboration with Sixense. Here's Amir, give it up. And with the Paris Center for Peace and Innovation, as well as our fantastic panelists here today. We have here an amazing team here, with a lot of experience in using XR for good. We don't have a lot of time, so we're gonna get right into it. So how about each one of you give us like a 1-minute introduction to yourself and the projects that you've been working on, and we'll take it from there. So Tammy, you wanna get started?
So I'm the head of the education department at the Paris Center for Peace and Innovation, which is based in Israel. It was founded by the 9th president of Israel, Shimon Peres, and we are a 23-year-old organization. But a year ago, we launched a physical visitor center that showcase the story of Israel, the innovation nation. What we basically do in our center, and specifically using VR, we're using it as a platform to give an experience and to create an awareness on what innovation is, what it's all about, the fact that innovation is beyond just technology, it's about doing good. First of all, it's creating awareness of the challenges that us as a humanity and as a people that live on that globe are going to face in the upcoming future, and what are the future solutions that all of us are going to experience and we need to think of and develop and basically to create in order to live in a better world. So basically it's all about innovation for good and focusing on what is being done and being created here in Israel.
Thank you, Tammy. Chris.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Yeah, that's okay.
My name's Christopher Nicholas. I'm a video producer at the International Committee of the Red Cross. We're there to help people affected by armed conflict. We've been using XR in a variety of ways. We have a team in Bangkok who do training modules using virtual reality for authorities, for colleagues, for armed forces. The work that we've been doing in the communications team has been more about campaigns, and we've been very interested in the work of Jeremy Belson at Stanford University and the work he's done about empathy and how to use virtual reality to build empathy. And so we have a couple of projects that we can refer to today. One is called Enter the Room, which was an augmented reality project, which is very easy to download if anybody has an iPhone, Enter the Room. The second one was our foray more into virtual reality, based on the really great, strong emotions that we saw from the first project. We took it one step further, and with Google Daydream, we produced something called Enter the Room.
Can you show the video?
Oh yes, sorry. There's some visuals behind. Yeah.
Christopher, close video.
I'll keep talking, and if it comes up, otherwise download them yourselves on your phones. So the right choice was, the second video, that was a virtual reality film. Also, we wanted to highlight the fact that war is increasingly being fought in cities, so it's about urban conflict. And in this time, we tried to take a more of a research approach. So we did before and after polling of every time we showed the film. And we showed the film at dozens of places around the world, at film festivals, at high-profile events like Davos. And we really did get very strong reaction. And we have some interesting facts from the research that we can share with you later. But I'm sure we'll have lots of time to talk about this in the panel, so I'll move on.
Thank you, Christopher. Oh, here you go. The video is up.
My name is Lihle, and I'm a young person living with HIV. When I first found out...
Can you pause it? Yeah, we'll show it when Charlotte talks.
All right,
here you go, Charlotte.
That's for us. So I'm Charlotte Sector. I'm the Communications Multimedia Manager. And the last panel, they were talking about content, and that's quite engaging for me, because I'm a content provider, I'm a storyteller. However, when you think of health, and in our case, HIV, that's AIDS, we have a lot of people living with HIV and a lot of young people who think it's a thing of the past, and it's not. So we decided to look at South Africa, which has 7.2 million people living with HIV, and that is the highest rate in the world. And so we wanted to do kind of an educational VR and make people feel like getting an HIV test, knowing your status, was not as kind of overwhelming. So that was our VR. That was really kind of our goal, is to make that experience not as overwhelming, scary, etc. So we're trying to overcome stigma, discrimination, everything that's linked to HIV, and especially with young people.
Sandra.
I'm Sandra Bialystok. I run the digital media section of the Geneva International Center for Humanitarian Demining. We give advice and support to countries around the world who are taking landmines and other explosive remnants of war out of their land to restore the land to people for productive lives and livelihoods. And what we did at the GICHD is we paired up with the Oculus VR for Good initiative, who put us together with Now Here Media. They're a production company based in Berlin. And together we created an experience called Home After War. It's an awareness-raising experience. It's been built for general public, as well as experts in my sector, in the humanitarian demining sector, to bring attention to the current situation of how improvised explosive devices, that's things like booby traps, are impacting people's safe return home in Iraq. Specifically, we went to Fallujah in Iraq and found Ahmaid, a man who returned home with his family, his 4 children and his wife, just a few months earlier, not knowing whether their house would be booby trapped. I mean, you can open a stove and something could explode. You can walk on a carpet and something explode. People are losing their lives. And we wanted to raise attention to this by creating a volumetric, fully immersive experience where you walk around Ahmaid's actual home, and he comes to you and he tells you his story. And in telling you his personal story, we want to show people what this current situation is like, and hopefully propel action to solve this current humanitarian crisis.
Thank you, Sandra. And Amir.
Thank you, Ori, for putting this amazing event together. My name is Amir Rubin. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Sixense Enterprises. At Sixense, we've been, for the last 12 years, focused on what we hope to be creating products, immersive products that improves people's lives. And you can see some examples outside. We focus on rehabilitation in healthcare, where stroke patients, traumatic brain injuries from explosives, from accidents, for young and old, going through a very inefficient rehabilitation system. We went out, researched it, teamed with the right company that we felt has both the what I would consider to be the management in place and the financing needed to build a solution that will take rehabilitation using immersive computing to the next level. We built a system. You can see it outside. It's called the Real Immersive System. It's enabling, starting with stroke patients, to not only get exercises that are being delivered, I would say in the past 50 years, in a more entertaining way, but providing an enormous amount of data that both helps the therapist to better understand the condition of the patient, and then helps the patient see their progress, understand the exercises, understand where they're going over the next, it can take years, unfortunately, to a soldier that's been through an explosive that hurt their brain. I will say a quick story about that. I was asked to talk about rehabilitation today. A couple of weeks ago, a 22-year-old from Oakland came to our lab, and that poor boy just came out of an accident where for the last 2 years he's been going through all sorts of therapies. Unfortunately, it's very hard to keep a 22-year-old engaged, and the therapy is extremely boring, and they've been using the same environment with 60, 70, and 80-year-olds that has stroke. They call it traumatic brain injury, and they do the rehab all in the same hospital. And when we put him into an environment where it feels like a game, but the feedback that they get, the data that they get as feedback of how well they are progressing, it's a game changer. It makes lives of people better. And the same we did when we were inspired by soldiers coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan. Myself, you know, I've been through 2.5 years of physical therapy after I was wounded in '79. But you go back into the damage that soldiers take today, and I'm talking just physical damage, not even the PTSD work that is required. And just to reintroduce them to life, to commercial world, and we teamed up with companies like Lincoln Electric, the largest welding company in the world, and providing welding training to soldiers coming back into the economy. And it's been so amazingly successful for the past 10 years that today it's a program that is going to colleges and high schools across the globe with thousands of systems, and the same for spray painting and others. So it's extremely exciting to see what's the possibilities of immersive computing, and thanks to Ori of pushing with AWE, making it possible for all of us.
All right, thank you, Amir. We'll get back to that in a moment. So how about this panel? Isn't it the most amazing panel that we've ever seen for XR for Good? All right, so we're going to jump right into the big question, the big picture. What makes this medium, AR and VR, so good at generating awareness and empathy? Who wants to start? Sandra, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think in our experience, what's been absolutely incredible is the fact that through this volumetric experience using photogrammetry, we're able to take people and we're able to put them in Fallujah. They walk around, you walk around Ahmad's house, you see, you see the rubble or in the city around you. And I think that, and just seeing the reactions of the thousands of people who have done our experience coming out in tears. We've had people from Iraq, once a woman who left Iraq when she was a child, saw the experience. She said, that box on the roof, that's a water cistern. And it brought back a memory for her that she had suppressed for many years and came out in tears. The ability of being immersive, I think, tricks your brain into thinking that you're there. And by thinking that you're there, you have this ability to be empathetic for the other in a way that has just not been possible through any other medium.
And I'd just like, oh, this moment's not working. Check yours. I'd like to, echo Sandra's point. And I think, unfortunately, there's also, the fact that you can transport someone from the comfort of their living room to the middle of a war zone. And I think, sadly, people have become so saturated and a little bit apathetic with all the images and communication that's there. It's a crowded space, but we really do want to get the message across. So things that are so immersive, it's the immersivity of virtual reality and XR and the potential that's been the interesting point for us. I'd love to, yeah. Could we show a little bit of something?
No? Okay, let's keep going.
That's a shame. Would anyone else like to talk about that? Yeah.
What, is that microphone doesn't work?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's much nicer. So I would agree with my colleagues here, and I would say that what we refer to as full presence, and my colleagues refer to as immersive experience, I think it's important. Our company has been very focused on understanding the problems that different companies or different organizations trying to solve, and then making sure that the solution is optimized using immersive technologies, whether VR or AR, or other mediums. But the most important thing is everything we always do and recommend for others is full presence. And one of the things that I believe will help all of you and everybody that is attempting to build a solution using full presence is to stick to the basic rules, which means immersive computing has to start with reality. And in reality, unless you are, in reality, most people have arms, they use them, they have legs, and they use their body. And what we found in the many years that I've been doing it, and my first experience was back in the 90s when I was doing sports simulation and military in VR, I can tell you that in 360 video or even volumetrics, it's very important to extend it to the next level where you are able to bring your full body. You can interact with the world. We did many years of testing that it's hard to retain the knowledge that you're trying to communicate if we don't enable that. So, there are new technologies that been introduced into the 360 video world. We call it 360 plus. You can all look at what my colleague Joel Breton was able to do in his days at Vive with the 7 miracles, where you actually can have full presence. And I also, of course, will promote, using CG anywhere you can. Now, it's amazing work that you have done, and I've actually this panel, I went through reading and learning what you guys achieved to date, and I can tell you, it's amazing organizations like yours that are able to go in. Usually I work with commercial organizations, but we would love I think everything you do is very, very important, and therefore it's, companies like us that only specialize in the technology to enable, I think it's important that we...
You want to follow up on that?
I just wanted to say that that's really interesting. I think also what's very important is to think about storytelling. So as much as the technology is important, it's the strong stories. We found Enter the Room, which is an augmented reality app where you just walk through the portal on your phone. It's very simple. But the fact that the storytelling drives it through, and there's a little bit of haptics and there's some great sound, but it's actually the story which makes you fully immersed in the same way that a good film or a good book can immerse you. So I think we must always also, as well as the technology and the extended sensations that it can bring, just remember that people are interested in human stories.
So I want to follow up on that. So, AR and VR are great for games. They're great to create fun. So why is it so important for us to think about how we create responsible applications and use cases for AR and VR, Charlotte?
Well, here's the... you made it work.
Yeah, I can hear it.
He made it work. I cannot make it work, clearly. So here's the thing. In gaming, it's a game. And we're realizing that more and more people have less and much less of an attention span, and we're fighting for very valuable eyeballs. So I thank you all for focusing your eyeballs on us right now. But that is the problem. We need to be talking to the next generation and beyond. And so we're trying to use the tools that have shown some success and some success. We'll talk about the challenges later.
I just want to join and add to that because we discovered that basically it gives us also, it's a tool to make people, because they connect to it quite easily. It doesn't matter if it's a 13-year-old, 10-year-old kid, or even an 80-year-old person, but they connect, the rapid way they connect to it gives us an opportunity to challenge them and make and trigger them in a way that how you can be the next person that will develop, invent, think, dream of a solution, a concrete solution to help and create a better world. And I think the responsibility is understanding the educational aspect that this tool has and how this needs to be spread and used in order to do good in the world in any level, on any aspect of that.
If I could just pick up on what you're saying from this educational aspect, one of the challenges that we had in creating our VR experience is we're dealing with landmines, things that go boom, things that kill you. And so how do you raise awareness about these things that kill you without making it into a game? We can't have people in a VR, we can't responsibly, as an organization that takes explosives out of the ground, put someone in a headset and say, go around, find the landmine, it'll be fine, or maybe you'll die. That's not a responsible message that we're sending. So the educational side is really very important, combined with the personal story also. And I think that's how we kind of tiptoed around that gamification aspect that's so seductive and into a piece of VR that we feel is responsible but still engaging.
All right, so you touched on the challenges, Charlotte, and you know, with all the great things that you can create with this medium, there are also some challenges. I mean, these guys here on the stage have pushed the envelope of what you can do with this medium and realized that there are some things that can become kind of challenging in creating those projects. So, Charlotte, do you want to follow up on that?
So here's the thing. We are wonderful organizations, but we are not making money. We are not making money, and therefore, unlike the former panelists who were saying, I need to figure out how to use this machine, Emerson, they immediately were finding solutions to fix the machines. So the problem for us was distribution. If you have a way to distribute this, or VR, because as you know, we still need headsets. Now, the last panelist said that perhaps we will no longer have headsets in a little while, but we're kind of far from that. So I think distribution was a bit of an issue. Not as many people have seen our VR. And another thing was cost and money. I mean, it's a lot of money that we are talking about. So I film very well, but I cannot film in a VR, and I cannot edit VR. So we're still kind of a bit far away. So
I can say to you that if it doesn't, so first of all, storytelling is critical. But to be able to tell the story, people need to feel naturally part of the story. And if they're not naturally, feeling themselves, it will hurt the objective that you put for yourself, whether it's education, whether it's entertainment or healthcare. I would go straight to the most simplistic part of creating a solution. If you are making choose problems that need solutions that are big enough. Now, what am I saying? If it's big enough of a problem, there are enough companies that will want to solve that problem. In healthcare, I've been searching. My first attempt to do a stroke rehab was in 2009. The technology was not there, and I could not also find the distribution, like you say. You could not get it to the market. But in 2016, with the cost and the technology getting closer, we were able to find a partner in a company called Penumbra. It's a public company. They've been selling and successfully, marketing a stroke, thrombectomy product that removed blood clots from the brain. And they were very frustrated of the way their patients were being treated in rehab. There was no data for the rehabilitation practitioner, and there was no data to the patient, and the patients consistently were basically checking out of the treatment and checking out of life, losing their interest in continuing life. And there comes a CEO of a company, a public company, and say, this is a very, very important thing to do, to help millions and millions of traumatic brain injury victims, as he calls them. And we need to make a solution that will to make a solution that will work, it has to be financially viable. It has to make a company like mine go to my shareholders, Fidelity, the largest shareholder of Penumbra, and justify what I'm doing. And that's what they've done. They built it. We spent 2.5 years, tens of millions of dollars. And our job is to put the solution together. They are what we call SMEs. They are the subject matter experts. When you go to Fallujah, you know, I've done back in the 90s an explosive training. That's how I got introduced to VR. You have to rely on the experts. You're not the expert, obviously. You are coming to help them to create an educational program that can help them communicate what you have in mind that they need to know. And I can tell you that what we found, that there are companies and there are organizations that have the funding. If you can communicate, and I'm not saying you don't, because I don't know that much about what you do, but I can tell you that we've spent the time and found companies, you know, in education, you know, with Lincoln Electric, the largest welding company in the world. When you put the product in such a way, you get approval from their SMEs, from their subject matter experts. You use them, communicate with them, and get the solution to work for what they think is going to work.
Amir, I want to step with there because I want to touch on something really important, and that is we're trying to create here an impact on society. But the question is, how do you measure that impact? Want to jump on that first?
I'll talk 30 seconds and then I'll pass it down. So what we've been doing to measure impact is a threefold approach. The first is just basic outreach. How many heads are we getting into the sets? How many people are seeing it? How many countries? How many cities? The second level of the impact that we're measuring is what is the return that we're getting from the people who are in the headsets? Will they give us interviews? Will they write media articles about it? Will they give us awards? Will they invite us to top panels such as this? For me, that means that someone has seen our piece and engaged with it and wants to give back. The third level of impact that the way we're tracking is people who have heard about it, who have come to us, who are researching the topic, and they come to us and they say, we want to write a media piece about what you're doing. It's amazing, it's fascinating, whatever. Invitations to places. And for me, the most important is other organizations who work in my sector who want to use our piece for their work, for their outreach work. This is a piece that we share for free. Anybody who can get the funds to have a headset, we will give them the files, you use it, you fundraise with it, you raise awareness, and for me that's the deepest level of impact when we share as a community and raise awareness for the cause together.
That's great. Go ahead, Nicholas.
We've got, similar in terms of we're measuring, success based on media mentions, and VR and AR, maybe because it's novel or for humanitarian organizations to use it, it's novel. We've certainly reached new audiences. We're in sort of VR scout blogs. We were in lifestyle type magazines that we wouldn't normally be talked about. So it's an opportunity for us to get our message to a different audience. But more directly, we did, as I said, this sort of before and after poll when showing the experience to people, the right choice. And that definitely did show a shift as people watched it. So that was our first attempt. We'd like to do more robust scientific studies in the future. But the initial findings from the poll did show that people were more empathic after watching the VR experience.
Awesome. We have just 2 minutes left, and I know, Amir, that you guys are also tracking and creating a lot of data from how people use it, so you can learn more about it at the exhibit hall. But for the last question for all of you, I want to hear about your dream. What's the next project that you would like to work on? So if you had, unlimited resources, unlimited capabilities, what would you do to use XR for good?
I can jump on that as well. So I'm talking now as an Israeli that lives here all of my life, and working in the end of the day, it's a peace organization. And one of the things that we are dreaming of is to create, because in our center we have 5 different scenarios, VR scenarios that they experience, but we are dreaming about the 6 scenarios that we want to give to our visitor, to dream and imagine a solution for peace. Because we live in a conflict area, no concrete solutions are around, and we really want to see how people that experiencing our VR platform can design the way they see peace in the world, which is something that we can all just dream about still, and especially in this way to give hope to the young generation, the future generation that lives here.
Except for peace. That's an awesome goal.
So for us, and for me personally, for many years, it's about democratization of healthcare. And I live in the States since 1986. Healthcare is devastating the United States. Democratization of education. And what I mean by that, which are both, by the way, very tightly related. With better education, there's better healthcare. And the reason, you know, I did a talk at Stanford in front of the graduate class in 2017, and the professors of that graduating class were in the audience, and I addressed directly the specific professor, and I told him, imagine that when you have this privileged group of young future, you know, healthcare professionals educated in these amazing facilities you have here in Stanford, when you do that, imagine that you have 10 million less privileged, brilliant people around the globe logging in and feeling the sense of presence. And by the way, I have goosebumps right now, just talking about it. It's amazing. I hope you all have that. Because this is why we are working. This is what we are doing. It's all about getting it to the point that anybody can log in when those brilliant minds are speaking and can have that experience and use the same labs, although they are virtual labs, but they can have we can almost today get to 95% of the reality experience. And then the cost of admitting to Stanford is going to be, Stanford virtual reality is going to be way cheaper, and the same about almost everything, rehabilitation, get access to all the best rehab, you know, getting all that to people's home, getting it to the cost that's going to make you possible to release these headsets to anybody and everybody so they can be educated with all this great work you guys are doing. This is what the work, you know, we are kind of Ori and I have been doing it for many, many years. So I hope.
Presence and goosebumps. There,
Yeah.
there you have it. Charlotte,
100%.
your dream?
Please.
Bravo. I will not add any more because he's pushing our agenda, which is universal health care, so we need to talk.
Sandra, last words for your dream.
So being able to push this virtual safe space in order to train people to do dangerous things safely.
Fantastic. Give it up for this fantastic panel. Learn from them, talk to them, see how you can help them. Really lucky to have you on board. Thank you.